Hello, and a warm welcome to the Women of Crazy World podcast, a podcast that illuminates the extraordinary journeys, trials, and triumphs of remarkable women in enterprise across the African continent. Whether you're seeking motivation, valuable insights, inspiration, or a sense of belonging in a community that celebrates women's success stories, then these podcasts is definitely the right platform for you. We have found that sharing stories and experiences is one of the most effective ways to change minds and provoke actions. Over the next 15 minutes, our host Cindy Dlamini will be guiding us through life transforming narratives as she connects us with her Pan-African network of women making massive moves in the marketplace. We hope that these women's journeys ignite and inspire you. And now I would like to introduce our fabulous host, Cindy Dlamini.
Greetings to all the women of Crazy World out there. This is your host, Miss Cindy Dlamini, and I'm so excited to be taking the center stage alongside incredible women in various places and spaces across our African continent. Together we'll be sharing profound insights, winning formulas, as well as intertwining our stories of success and empowerment. It's important to note though that this podcast isn't just about storytelling, nor is it limited to an exceptional listening experience, but it's an actual fact a movement. And your tuning in every month is crucial to the rhythm and growth of this movement. Now, with that being said, I'd like to encourage you to assist us in growing our podcast community by simply sharing the podcast link with your women networks far and wide. Okay, so today we've got the next level generation leader in the form of Nonhlanhla Mkhonta, all the way from my home country. Actually, Eswatini is being represented this month. Miss Nonhlanhla, how are you? Introduce yourself to our audience.
I'm well. Thank you so much, Miss Cindy. Hi, everyone who's listening. Thank you so much for taking time to join us this evening. So my name is Nonhlanhla Mkhonta. I'm a 28-year-old young born-again Christian. I was born and raised in Eswatini. I'm the last born of 3 siblings. My academic journey looks like me starting off at St. Michael's Primary School, where I attended till like grade 7. Then I moved to St. Mark's High School.
Fantastic. We've got Nonhlanhla with great social impact as well as a passion for Christ and community, right? We're going to get into some more personal questions for you, just to get to know you a bit better. You know, you're talking about your journey from education, being from primary right up to high school and university. But in all that, you know, who has been the most influential person during your upbringing and why?
That's a really good question. So, I was raised by a single mom, and watching her, I can say single parenthood is not easy, but I've seen her raise 3 kids and just doing it so gracefully, you know, making sure that we get an education, making sure that we're just like proper citizens in this world. So I think she has played a big role in my life in inspiring me to do better. You know, even as I was just doing life, what motivated me was to just give back to her, because I've seen her give selflessly, so, you know, over the years. So I could say my biggest inspiration has been her. Yeah.
Fantastic. You know, every month I speak to phenomenal women, and every time I ask this question, I'm so surprised as to it's a consistent my mom, my mom, my mom. So kudos to all the moms doing fantastic things. They are raising women of great influence. We can attest to that because, like I say, every month I have this question and I've got the same answer. So I'm super excited that women are just stepping up in a very phenomenal way. Now, as you are growing up, you know, I always like to say we have success stories, we've got failure stories. This is also around your personal, you know, background still. And the next question would be, what's been your biggest failure? And then what was the greatest lesson you learned from that?
I think that one, yeah, it's a bit personal, but I can answer that. I think my biggest failure was not finishing varsity the year I wanted to finish. Like, I did well throughout varsity, and then that last year I won't say I messed up, but there was just this one subject, and then I had to make sure that I go back and I finish strong. And honestly, that was really, really like a hard failure on my conscious and everything. But from that, I think I just learned to be resilient. I learned that, even when things don't work out the way you want them to, but you just need to get up, dust yourself off, and continue. And once you do that, you are able to reach the goal. I mean, now I'm degreed. No one would even know that. Oh my God, that final year was not the easiest. But I just learned that just push through, get up, and keep going. It's not giving up is not an option, even when challenging times come your way. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's also just encouragement to someone who just thinks they didn't do great at school, so they must sit school life out. You've heard it, ladies and gentlemen, don't give up, keep going. Even if you messed up that one subject, go rewrite it and get it right the next time. And now
Yeah.
you were talking about your 28, I think you said in your interview. I mean, in your initial answer of the question, you're 28. And I like to ask this question, but what advice you give your answer your 18-year-old self? Because your 20-year-old self was like 18 years ago. I mean, it was like what, 8 years ago for you.
8
So
years ago.
we're looking at now, when you are 18, what would you give yourself advice now that you're 28, now that you know what you know now?
Thank you for that question. I think I'm in my 20s, so I'm still there. But I guess I just say to my younger self that, you know, even when, like, God's timing is the best. I don't know how I can put it, but just trust God's timing, even when it doesn't unfold the way you thought it would unfold. Just trust that God has good plans for you. He says that in his word. He says, I have good plans for you, plans to prosper you, and plans to give you an expected end. And I think a lot of the pressure that we put on ourselves is we want things to happen in 3 years' time. And if it takes a year longer, like what I was saying with the previous question, then we feel like, oh my God, I messed up. There's no hope. No, just trust God's timing and believe that it will all turn out good. It will turn out good. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's the best advice you can give us, guys. Trust God's timing. Timing, it can always work. It always works out for your good. And then now that I've learned a couple of things about you in your personal capacity, now let's move on to this. You mentioned very interesting things. You didn't complete varsity when you wanted to complete varsity, but here we are today. You're an entrepreneur. How did that even come about? Let's talk about that one.
That one is quite interesting. So with what I had studied, I studied social work when I was in varsity. And with everything, I just realized my passion for people, impacting people and everything. And I know that social work and business doesn't, entrepreneurship doesn't seem to interlock, but honestly, when Blooms and Gifts started, what I really, really just wanted to achieve was to impact lives, was to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm contributing to my community, to my society, the best way I can, even if it's in the smallest of ways. So, with Blooms and Gifts, it in my head, how I imagined it is we just package happiness, we just package just joy. So we do curated gifts, we do flower arrangements, and we begin to merge that whole thing together. And when I was doing the business, my core, I'll say, reason for it was, of course, job creation. And when we realized with the curating gifts, I was able to then influence or touch my artisans. In our country, we have a lot of people who do crafts and arts, but they can never get that to your CEO. They can never get that to your prime minister. But with my gifting, I'm able to collaborate with them and make sure that even as I rise, I'm lifting other people up. Even as I succeed, I am actually impacting and empowering other people to succeed in what they do best. So I think the heart of it is just impact. The heart of it is just, yeah, just helping out and doing good. Yeah.
That's all brilliant. All I'm hearing coming through from you is impact and opportunity, two words. You want to impact society in general, but you're giving opportunity to the artisans, to the ones who doesn't have necessarily the front space to market their business, to connect them from the smallest guy in town to the biggest guy, the CEO, which is fantastic stuff. And so what is it about your industry that has surprised you lately, as we just talk about this curating of gifts? And in fact, I'm going to give this in a twofold question. It's what's the surprise about the industry, one thing, but then as well, what do you think makes you stand out? Because there are so many of you, if I can put it that way, there's so many people who curate gifts and who do corporate packaging, who, if it's Valentine's Day or whatever the case may be, it's a saturated industry. What would you say makes you stand out from the rest?
Okay. So I'll start with the first one. So what has you said shocked me about my industry? So we've been doing this for about 4 years now, and at first I used to think that money can only be made during Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. Like I thought I'd be able to make money maybe, let's say, 4 times a year. So that's where I would focus my energy on. However, when I started doing gifting and flowers in a larger scale, I realized that money can be made. Money can be made every day, literally. I don't even want to lie. Companies are appreciating their stakeholders every other day. People are having funerals every week and they need flowers, so it's not just the peak seasons. You can actually just take advantage of each and every moment. You just need to know what you need. The trick is you need to have knowledge of what's actually happening in the ground, and I think that's what I can say sets me apart right now, is me understanding my industry locally where I am. So I understand that not everyone appreciates flowers, but everyone needs to bury people. So now I bring flowers to Swaziland, and we've recently done a couple of funerals, and I can say that that's the scale you want to work on, the weddings as well. So you just have to make sure that you're doing things like at a larger scale. But with gifting as well, you just need to market yourself and put yourself out there in a way that's so, like, that positions you as an industry leader, right? So most of the companies that reach out to me, I'm fairly new, and most of the time, it really works through connections. I don't know how I can explain it. If you're from Swaziland, you understand, but if maybe you're not, maybe you wouldn't understand. However, when you choose to market and position yourself in a way that will that will put you more so as a brand, then that becomes your niche. Besides the fact that we actually use, like we said, artists and crafts, we personalize our gifts, so we ensure that each and every company is actually the brand is represented. So it's not just about the person receiving the gift, but we ensure that the person who is giving the gift is able to communicate what they want to communicate through gifting. So whether it's ensuring brand visibility, we do that well. Whether it's making sure that each and every one of your stakeholders receives something that is thoughtful and personalized to them, that every time they look at it, they think of you. So we don't look at gifting as, I don't know, just that one thing that companies have to do at the end of the year. We look at gifting as a medium of fostering relationships, of strengthening relationships that will in turn increase your ROIs as a company. And yeah, so I don't go on and on and on, but that's just what we chose that's how we have chose to position ourselves, and it's been working really well for us.
That's quite inspiring, because a lot of people, they have the concept, they have the idea, and then getting themselves out there or positioning themselves better is always a challenge. And so I'm actually quite impressed to hear that as young as you are, and you're 4 years in the industry, you've learned quite a lot. I mean, you seem to be a person who's able to spot the opportunity. You just gave us an example of when you initially began, you thought, oh, okay, it's on Mother's Day and Valentine's Day and, every other day. But you recognize that actually people are actually dying every day, which is unfortunate, but there's an opportunity in that anyway. And that's what your business kind of presents. You are able to broaden your scope in terms of your service provision, which is now fantastic. And then we can talk about all the brilliant stuff that your business does, but we also want to know what are the challenges that you are facing right now in your business. I think I mentioned earlier that look, it's not a new business. It's we have a lot of gifting and curating businesses in the country a lot, but what could be the possible challenges that you're actually facing as a business? Is it competition, not competition enough? What exactly is going on there? And what are you doing to mitigate those challenges to make sure that you're actually thriving? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. That's a really, really good question. I think we can look at all the other things, the competition and everything, but I realize that that's not our major challenge right now as a business, but our real challenge that we've been facing. I think as we've been working with corporates is cash flow. So when you work with companies, you realize that they actually want you to deliver before they can actually pay. So you need to make sure that you have the money to service orders that could go north of 100,000, and it's like, oh my God, where am I gonna get that much money? And even when you do, that money is then cash strapped up until they release the payment of that particular order. So what we've realized is on peak seasons, you're dealing with multiple companies, right? And all of them want you to service the order first before they release payments. But I think how we have tried to mitigate this particular problem is forging strategic partnerships with your financial institutions. So there's this thing called order financing or invoice financing, where you can go to your large corporates, your FinCorp or your youth fund or your Amandla, where you engage with them and they're able to actually give you that money for you to fulfill the order, and then once the money is released, you are able to pay them. However, that does come with a bit of some interest on their part, because they have to get something out of it. But at least it allows us to be able to manage the large volumes of orders. And another thing, we have tried to also have policies in-house that actually state when we're sending out codes, could say, oh, please, if the order is more than 50,000, for example, please actually make sure that you pay 50% before as a deposit, and then once we've delivered, you can then pay all the money. You can now pay the remainder of the money. So those I'll say those two systems have helped us try to actually manage this particular challenge, which could be a real challenge, because if you can't fulfill the order, then that's how you miss out or you lose out on business. So yeah.
Fantastic. I think that's actually quite some useful information, because a lot of young people, and in particularly focusing it on Eswatini, is when you speak to the youngsters, it's always about cash flow. I'm unable to service this order. I'm unable to start because I've got no money for this. And just to add as well to your answer to this question, is just putting in my 2 cents of wisdom. The other alternative is really smaller orders and grow slowly, gradually to the bigger corporates, because what we also want to do is we want to start big, and we forget that if you start something small, eventually it grows. So, but I also love the fact that you're also giving us, options that, look, you're not stuck. You can do more invoice ordering and all that stuff like that. There are opportunities up there, as long as you can present, the fact that, the money is coming to whatever institution you're talking to. So that's actually another option, which is fantastic. And again, because I'm talking about money issues here, now, if you had 10 times the budget that you have right now for your business, I mean, what would you spend it on and why?
10 times. Oh my God. Lord, I hope you're hearing this. 10 times. Oh, so if I had like 10 times, oh my God. I guess as a business, we would use that to invest in equipment and distribution. So there are a few, okay, we have acquired a bit of some equipment, but there are a few equipment with add, which would continue to help us be a niche, or it would add to our niche, I guess. So we'd get some equipment which would help us increase capacity, and it would also reduce lead times, because most of the time when we get orders, companies will ask you, or people will ask you, how long will it take for you to deliver, so sometimes you're like 2 weeks, because you know very well what's okay. Oh, this, I'll need to outsource this, I'll need to outsource that. But if you have equipment to actually do everything in-house, then you're able to finish the orders in a shorter space of time. And because then the process doesn't take long, and you are doing everything in-house, like I said, you are able to reduce the cost of doing everything. Because if you're outsourcing, then the margin, the people, they mark up. They're like, oh, for this we'll charge you this, and that's an extra cost. But if you're doing everything in-house, you're able to improve on your margins, and yeah, that means you are able to grow in a more sustainable way. So yeah, and then the distribution aspect of it is just maybe have a truck or two, so that when you have to deliver, you're able to deliver in bulk. You don't have to be doing rounds of delivery, or having to rent cars, rent a big truck. You are just able to distribute all your goods at a go. And yeah, so I think that's what we would invest in currently. Yeah.
Smart move. At least you're not going to go buy yourself, I don't know what, latest jewelry because you've increased 10 times. At least you're investing it back in
Yeah.
the business. That's
Yeah.
actually intelligent. Now I heard you talk about distribution, which is kind of going to link to my next question, which is, as part of being a good entrepreneur is goal setting. Whilst you're a local company now, Eswatini based, distribution wise, are you seeing yourselves in the nearest future, exporting your product? Where are we going with that? Where are we going futuristically with this company? Is it constantly going to be an Eswatini thing, or are we exporting? Are we looking to distribute across our borders? Where exactly are we going with that? What's the goal? What's the long-term goal?
Okay, the long term, it's not even a long-term goal. This one is actually one of our shorter term goals. Working with South African companies. We've had South African companies actually reach out and ask if we could get our gifts to them. So we are working on that, actually exporting our products. But because the name of the company is called Blooms and Gifts, so we have the blooms aspect, the flowers aspect, and then we have the gifting aspect. But it all wraps up and makes this powerhouse of a company. But we have realized that the gap in Eswatini is that in the floriculture industry, we actually don't farm our own flowers. We import literally almost all of our flowers. So the long-term goal is to actually farm our own flowers. Of course, we have a meticulous plan of just ensuring that there's actually a market. There is a market, but we also want to create a demand as blooms and gifts. So what we want to do is to actually establish selling flowers in volumes, right? And that's where we kind of are right now. We're just making sure that we have a consistent demand of the flowers. We are also looking to actually having a flower shop in Baban, because there's only one real flower shop in Baban. And yeah, yeah, I won't say much about it, but we are looking to actually be their main competitors in the city. Have a shop that has foot traffic, and once we have established that, we're looking at starting the nursery farm. Okay, after having established which flowers are actually highly demanded in the country, and then we will go into farming that in a small scale, look at if that particular flower is compatible with our soil and our just atmosphere, environment, and then from there we're looking to growing our flowers at a bigger scale and going into exporting our flowers. So with the gifting aspect, we are looking to export sooner rather than later. But with the flower aspect, we're looking to just grow gradually and not only become like a supplier in the country, the main supplier of flowers in the country, but also get to export our flowers, hopefully. Amen.
Fantastic. It sounds like you've got some sort of growth plan strategy, which is primarily localized. And, once you get your footing correct, localized, then you're just going to have the confidence to expand into South Africa, from what I'm hearing. We would like to encourage you, because the WCW, our Pan-African movement, we are across the African continent. So whilst I love that you want to expand to South Africa, we must always also look beyond the South African portfolio. But I guess you start somewhere, right, in order to grow. So no pressure there. The fact that you've got some sort of growth strategy is fantastic for the rest of us. Now, because my time is almost just limited, I want to ask a really, really important question, which I believe is an important question. Now, I'm this youngster looking up at Nonhlanhla and thinking, I want to do blooms and gifts today. I want to get into this industry. What kind of advice do you have for me? What's the tip that you have? How do I start? Like, do I just decide, Namut, I'm going to go buy a box and put in, I don't know what, certain items, and then go and say, here's your gift? What advice do you have for me?
Okay.
Desires to be in this industry, but it's got no clue which would be.
Okay. So I think just the first thing that I could say to someone who wants to start a business, even if it's in the gifting industry or any other industry, I'd just say start. I think we paralyze ourselves in our heads because we like plan and plan and plan and plan and plan, but we're just held back by fear or doubt or whatever it may be. But what I can say is just start afraid, start trembling, start doubting, but start doing your research. I think when I wanted to start this business, I just also recognized that there's actually a gap in the market. At that time, they were not doing flowers in a box, and I was like, I want to do this. I've never seen this done in this country. I really want to do this. So you can research, go and find out where you can get flowers, where you can get boxes, where you can get, and the one thing I remember, I was in a panel discussion this one time, and there was this entrepreneur was asking me and was like, so what if I really want nice packaging, where do I get it? I was like, you can get it. You have access to the internet. You just go, you research, where can I find this? And you then research, how can I get it to me? How can I get it in my hands? And then once I've gotten it in my hands, I want to do flowers. I go on YouTube. I learn how to do flowers. I learn how to take care of flowers. So just do your research. Make sure that you've covered that base. But start. Don't then be paralyzed by the fear of actually starting, right? And I would also say, you spoke about how Women of Crazy Wealth is a Pan-African movement. And I just wanted to talk about the AFCFTA, that this allows us to actually have opportunities beyond our borders. So for anyone, wherever you are in Africa, start and be mindful of the fact that there's so much opportunity. There's opportunity in the country next to you. There's opportunity in Uganda. There's opportunity for me everywhere. When I was thinking about starting my own flower farm, I researched how they're doing it in Zimbabwe, because that's an African country and they're doing it really, really well. So you realize that there's actually so much wealth in Africa, and you can the sky's the limit. You can actually supply way further than you could actually think or imagine. So just start and know that there are opportunities. Look for the opportunities, even in your own country. Look for the opportunities.
Okay, that's some great insight coming through from Miss Nonhlanhla on how we start. We just start. We start afraid and we start overwhelmed. We start, basically in panic mode. But the point really is we start. And, we're not starting alone these days because we've got the joys of Google, we've got YouTube, as she's mentioned. So this is just fantastic for us to know we're not starting the journey alone. We can make use of this digital platform or the World Wide Web as we know it. So, Ms. Nonhlanhla, before I let you go completely today, in the event that I want to follow you, want to follow up about your business, I want to know where you are, I want to order from you, where do I find you? Are you on social media? Do you have any websites that you'd like to share with our listeners today? Yeah, please take us through on that.
Thank you so much, Miss Cindy, for the question. If anyone is interested in finding us on our social media, we are on Instagram at blooms_gifts_sz, and my personal account is at her_sparkle. And we are on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I am Nonhlanhla Mkhonta. And then the business account is Blooms and Gifts on LinkedIn. And then if they'd like to email us, you can find us at info at Blooms and Gifts, and the full and gifts@com. So I think I have covered all the bases. On Facebook, we are also Blooms and Gifts, but we have more traction on Instagram. So that's where you can find us more. Yeah. Thank you.
So from the Eswatini front, we love you, we appreciate you, and we thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you for tuning in to this month's episode of the Women of Crazy World podcast. Remember to share the link to your women's network on your social media platforms. And because we absolutely love to hear from you, do drop us a comment in the comment section below on how this episode has inspired you. Looking forward to learning and growing with you once again. So do join us next month at 3 p.m. for yet another live transformational episode. For now, it's goodbye from us.